let's just go ahead and get started with marketing fundamentals for right now. I'm going to hand it over to today's speakers, Neda Kavilis, CEO and founder of Blue Seedling, and Elad David Amir, CEO and co-founder of Astrolabe Diagnostics. Hi, Neda.
Hi, Lauren, and hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. We're gonna start with a super quick 30-second intro for myself and Elad, mainly to convince all of you that it's a worthwhile investment of your time to listen to us today. So hi, I'm Neda Kavilis, founder and CEO of Blue Seedling. I'm a computer science major from Tel Aviv University. I was a software developer and a product manager for a few startup companies in Israel. Then I switched over to the evil side and I got my MBA at Harvard Business School, worked for Amazon for 3 years doing product and marketing, and 4 years ago founded Blue Seedling, which is a marketing agency working with some of Israel's fastest growing B2B startups. And I'm super excited and honored to be here today with Elad David Amir. Why don't you introduce yourself, and thank you so much for being here today.
Hey everyone, and thank you, Lauren and Neda, for inviting me. I'm Elad. I'm the CEO and founder of Astrolabe Diagnostics. My background is also in computer science, my bachelor's and master's. I've done my PhD in biology in Columbia, and after a short stint in Mount Sinai Hospital, I founded Astrolabe Diagnostics. We're a medical diagnostics company. We develop software as a service tools for biologists who are doing research in basic sciences. And in fact, today is Astrolabe's third birthday. So founded exactly 3 years ago.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
That's exciting. All right, a toddler. Okay, yes. So gonna dive right in, and today we're gonna share with you a very practical playbook for building a marketing engine from scratch that can serve you today in these crazy Corona days we're all partying, as well as later on post-Corona. And the webinar is very much geared towards early stage B2B startups, but a lot of the takeaways and recommendations are very much applicable for later stage companies as well. We're gonna share a lot of tools, a lot of tactics. It's very practical. These are things you can be implementing today and tomorrow. Hopefully you will enjoy it. And we decided to put together this webinar really as a service for the community of early stage B2B startup founders that we aim to serve. So hopefully this is educational, relevant, informative, entertaining. Feel free to chat us questions as we go along. What we've been hearing from founders we've been talking to is a lot of uncertainty, a lot of doubt, a lot of fear. They want to keep communicating with their audience, but they're not sure, should they even continue doing marketing? How do they keep communicating? How do they continue building a pipeline, retain their existing customers, even upsell them? So with this webinar, we aim to answer some of these questions, starting with a very strong yes, you should definitely continue doing marketing. And we're going to start with a story. So let me tell you a story about Astrolabe's IM Biweekly. So IM stands for Immune Monitoring, and the IM Biweekly is Astrolabe's primary marketing program. It's essentially a newsletter. It gets sent out every 2 weeks using MailChimp. As you can see, it's very simple in terms of the format. It's a text-based newsletter, and the content itself is a combination of curated articles. So really more key content from the industry with Elad's commentary on these articles. And a few months ago, Elad was sitting at his office and all of a sudden he received the following email.
Hi, Elad. I'm a sales rep for leading instrument manufacturer in our field. I'm on your mailing list. The reason I'm reaching out is to tell you how impressed I am with your marketing efforts. Your emails are beyond excellent, and I think most marketing organizations could do well to follow your blueprint. Kudos to you, sir. Best, Bob.
So, I mean, this is amazing. This is the type of email you forward to your mom, or at least I would forward to my mom. Elad, did you forward it to your mom?
I did not, but I forwarded it to you, so close enough.
I don't want to go there. Anyway, beyond the anecdotal, very enthusiastic feedback, let's talk about some hard numbers. So This newsletter program has enjoyed pretty rapid growth in the couple of months it's been in existence, great email open rate, and most importantly, Elad has already seen 2 sales opportunities generated directly from this newsletter program. Now, I think that some of you might be saying, okay, congrats to Elad and his awesome marketing team that put this together. I don't have a marketing team that can ramp up this kind of endeavor. So let's take a behind the scenes look at Astrolab's environment and marketing team. So Elad, walk us through what are we looking at here?
So this is the Astrolabe main office, which is actually behind me right now. Astrolabe is a fully remote company. We're a 5-person team right now. And when we launched the IM Biweekly, we were actually a 3-person team. The company is fully bootstrapped. There's no venture funding. And I'm proud to say that we've been profitable since day one. The team for the IM Biweekly has been just 2 people, myself and Heather Dwyer, who is our operations director. So it has been as lean as it could be.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's take a step back and talk about what was the situation at Astrolabe that prompted you to fire up this initiative. So can you tell us how things were going?
Of course. So as I mentioned, the company was launched 3 years ago, and we've been profitable since day one, mostly thanks to my personal network. I come from this field, I come from science, and some of my past colleagues were the first customers of Astrolabe. I would say that we got a very robust customer base just based on word of mouth. However, that dried out about a year after we launched the company. And we reached this very awkward and painful situation where we had no new deals and no new leads for about 6 months. And my personal network was exhausted. We didn't have any marketing in place. And we actually had a board review earlier this month where we've gone over these numbers. And I was horrified and new at seeing how little we got incoming. So it really was a complete desert as far as leads are concerned.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for being candid. And second, there's nothing to be ashamed of. This is so common. We see it times and again where founders start off with reaching out to their personal network and their advisors and investors, and that's how they get the first clients. But then comes a point where you want to expand beyond this initial pool and it's really hard. And then oftentimes you start saying, okay, I'm going to turn to marketing. But which marketing channel should you launch first? And I'm actually gonna turn it over to you, the audience, and I'm gonna ask you via poll that you should be seeing on your screens now. If you were in Elad's shoes, so you exhausted leads and deals from your personal network, you wanna start investing in marketing, what's the top marketing channel do you think will be most effective and you'll turn to in this situation? So please choose the top one via the poll, and I already see the results coming in.
And let's be fair and say that conferences exist, unlike the current situation where everything has been shut down.
Right. Okay, so seeing the results coming in, gonna wait 2 more seconds to let everyone cast their vote. It's interesting. All right, can we share the poll on the screen? Okay, so you should be seeing the results now. Most people are surprisingly saying online advertising, which is really great. And I wish we could do another webinar about why I personally think that online advertising is the worst channel for enterprise B2B startups. But I'm excited to see a lot of people also chose content marketing and prospecting, so emails and so on. Okay, thank you for that. Now, okay, sorry, let's close out of this. Our answer is content marketing, and that was Elad's answer as well. So Elad, tell us why you chose content back then.
Well, the biggest part for me, at least, is that I'm a technical founder. I come from engineering, I come from science, and for me, I have no background in marketing. And for me, it seemed very natural to build on my strength. And in this case, content is something that I've been doing throughout my professional career. It's a very central part of a scientific career. So it seemed very natural. Another component of it was just honestly funding. Astrolabe is fully bootstrapped, no venture funding. So we couldn't really hire a full-time marketing person to build this from scratch and do the prospecting and start spending money on online marketing, which is honestly pretty expensive. And finally, there was a very clear need in my mind that we could have fulfilled. So all of these combined really made content a very alluring path.
Yeah. And so I agree with all of that. And I see it across different verticals and industries. In fact, just so you don't think this is something that's special to biotech or healthcare, which is Elad's industry, I just wanted to highlight another example from a completely different industry. So Bringo's an Israeli startup selling to large grocery chains in the US, and they implemented pretty much the exact same playbook as Elad did. So this is their weekly newsletter with a collection of curated articles for the grocery industry. So this playbook works, and content marketing works across different industries. Cool, so with that, we're gonna dissect Elad's success story and give you a playbook that you can implement today if you choose content marketing as your top channel. And we're gonna talk about 3 steps. Number 1, identifying your audience and their needs. Number 2, which is the most important step, building your marketing database. And number 3, operationalizing the content marketing machine, so to speak. Cool, so step number 1, identifying your audience and their needs. So Elad, what did you do here?
So one of the things that I do on a regular basis, just as part of Astrolabe's existence, is continuously review all the latest scientific literature in the field. And just to give you some perspective, that is a lot. I have multiple different Google queries, and I usually get somewhere between 20 and 30 white papers a day that have come up in this field of immune monitoring. So I am continuously reviewing them. I have to stay up to date. It's a survival requirement for the company. And when speaking to a colleague of mine, a consultant, he mentioned that he has the idea of starting a mailing list for scientists reviewing the latest technologies. We were talking about it, and it was clear that he's aiming for something very ambitious that will take a while to build. So I suggested, how about while you're building your idea, I'm just gonna take some papers and curate them and send them to the relevant audience. So again, really building on an organic need from within Astrolabe that seems to be common to many other researchers who are effectively our customers.
Yeah, so I love in this story, I love many things, but one of the things I like the most is that Elad validated his idea by interviewing a colleague or someone else in this space. And it was also built, the entire premise is built on Elad's research and all the reading he does as part of his job, frankly. So here we listed a few tools that can give you the fodder for this content and content that you can surface up to your audience. Now, nothing here is groundbreaking or original even, but these are just things that you should be doing. And you can find 6 more tools or ideas like that in the blog post that we link to. Cool. So, sorry, go ahead, Elad.
And one thing that I wanted to mention in that content is that in that context is that try to aim to a reasonable goal, right? Everyone is busy, especially entrepreneurs, and it's really important to be able to deliver consistently. I think that the most impressive thing about the biweekly to our customers is that it always comes. Every 2 weeks, they get their newsletter. And in order to achieve that, we had to aim for something that we as a small team can do on a regular basis. So building on something that we've already done was very natural. And I suggest that when you start working on your own content-based marketing, start by what you already have, what you already do, and build up from that.
100%. Yeah, this is great advice. Okay, cool. So let's talk about the most important step, which is building your marketing database or the mailing list you'll be emailing your wonderful content to. So what did you do here, Elad? And you really started from a marketing database of like zero, essentially?
Yes, the marketing database was zero. I guess one, because I could put my mom in it, going back to your previous suggestion. And I think, to me at least, there is something somewhat emotional about a mailing list. All of us get spam all the time, and more often than not, it's pretty annoying. And nobody wants to become one of these people that sends unsolicited spam and gets immediately thrown into the spam directory or trash. So it's a bit unpleasant. It might also be a bit scary. I mean, there's all these stories about getting blacklisted, and then that channel is gone, right? So, so my strategy for building this list was really about curating and targeting people whom I knew are going to read this. And the starting point was all of the previous marketing activities that Astrolabe has done. And to clarify, these are not thousands of people events, right? These are small conferences, user meetings, forums, webinars, and so on. However, each of these activities usually ends up with 20 to 30 names of people who already spent the time to come to your event, to visit your booth, to listen to your webinar. And they added up quite nicely into, I think, a couple of hundred people. So really tracking every marketing activity you've done, keeping the lists, and then combining them. The second thing that I've done, which was a bit more time consuming, is going over all of my LinkedIn connections. And nobody starts a company from scratch, right? You have some background in this field, and it's really about going over the 200, 300 or more people you have on LinkedIn and choosing those that might be interested, that might be relevant. And to clarify, you can be a bit promiscuous. It doesn't have to be the perfect target audience. I think that if you have good content, even people with cursory interest in the field are going to want to receive your emails. And finally, and the most time-consuming part, was going over practically every email I sent since the company was founded. And one of the cool things about using Gmail is that every correspondence becomes one of the lines in your contacts list. So I just took the whole thing and exported into a spreadsheet. It was enormous. I think it was 1,500 or 2,000 emails. And over the course of a few days, I spent 1 or 2 hours every day just going over the list and picking these people that might actually be relevant. So overall, it was a pretty time consuming.
While listening to jazz music, right?
Yes, while listening to jazz music. Thank you. Hence the jazz here. Yes, it was pretty boring. It was pretty dull. And again, as a founder, you're so busy. It was also a bit like, am I doing the right thing right now? But even setting aside the success that we've seen in retrospect, I think that it is essential to have such a list nowadays. Especially now, we see how many businesses need to pivot their usual operations, and having a mailing list allows you to tell your customers, here is what we're doing right now. Here is the most exciting thing. So again, focusing on the people whom I really think care about this, and spending the 10 to 15 sweat equity to find them, put them in a spreadsheet, and upload it to MailChimp.
Yes, amen to that. Okay, I want to underscore the importance of this step. Content distribution is so much more important than content creation. If this is the world's greatest webinar, but nobody listens to it, then it's a complete failure. So you should not start creating content unless you have a pretty good sense of how you're going to get your content into the hands of your audience. And for an early stage startup, this means that you need to invest the time into building your own marketing database. Having a dream of people coming to your website and signing up into your database, it's a nice dream. not going to happen. You need to start it off yourself. And I would say a good benchmark and initial goal to aim for should be in the hundreds of leads in your marketing database. And the main reason is math. So a good benchmark for conversion or response rate for any offering, like join a webinar or download a white paper, is a few percentage points. So let's say 1 to 3%. So if you have a database of 100 people, 1% response rate is like 1 or 2 people, which is just not enough to justify your marketing investment. And also you may get 0 people and you're not going to know if it's because your content sucks or because the database is too small. So I would aim for a few hundreds to begin with. And how do you get to these few hundreds? So 3 stages. The basic stage is what Elad just described. Using this method, you'll get to the first 500. Everyone should do that. Like, you must do that. Second stage, the pro level, going from the first 500 to, let's say, the first 1,000. A simple method which you can still do on your own, very minimal investment. If your target persona is, let's say, marketing executives in top financial banks in the US, run a LinkedIn search on that to find these people, and then use services like Find That Email or Find Our Expert, which let you find anyone's email address for very reasonable prices, and some even offer like free emails. So that's a good way to get to the first 1,000. Beyond that, you'll need to partner or use vendors, tools like Cloudlead, ZoomInfo, have a team on Upwork doing lead generation for you. In the blog post we link to, there is a step-by-step guide to running this process and a bunch of tools that we recommend. Cool. So I know at this point, some of you may be thinking, is this legal? Like, can I just add people to my database and start emailing them without having them explicitly opt in? So I'm going to ask all of you guys, what do you think? Is it legal? And let's use a poll to see what you think, to email people. And let's say this is the United States we're talking about, people who did not opt into my database explicitly. Can I just start emailing them?
And I think that the comment about the United States is pretty apt. Europe is much more difficult about this.
Right. Okay. So we're seeing the votes coming in. Come on, we're not gonna hold you to it. You can just go ahead and vote.
Are the votes anonymous?
The police is coming.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'm sharing. Okay, 80% are saying yes. Okay, so I'll just close out of it and I'll share our opinion. So gonna preface by saying that we're not lawyers, this is not legal advice. Having said that, in the US, the relevant law states that you can email people who have not explicitly opted into your database, as long as you do 2 things. You include in every email your physical mailing address and a link to unsubscribe, as you see in this example from Blue Seedling's own emails. Do these 2 things and you're covered. So that's that. Okay, cool.
And
so,
actually, there is an interesting comment from chat where one of the attendees is saying that even the European GDPR protects people and not businesses. And in this content, I will point out that I would be very careful about including Gmail addresses. Google seems to be a bit more aggressive in throwing you into spam. But I imagine that most of the audience is B2B. And if you're targeting people's business email address, then I think you're going to be safer. So again, be careful about it. And I would stick to people's professional email addresses rather than personal ones.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, you know, we're presenting a playbook and we really encourage you to go ahead and start doing it. That said, there are a lot of nuances and complexities, and, you know, having a trusted advisor you can turn to with these questions to learn from their hard-earned experience is recommended. And obviously we're happy to help, but it's simple, but there are nuances to master as well. Okay, great. So you understand your audience, you have your initial email database. How do you actually create the process of sending high quality content to your audience on a regular basis? So what did you do, Elad? Which tips can you share?
Well, as I mentioned previously, the most important thing for us was to deliver something every 2 weeks. And to me, that is the greatest mark of professionalism, that people know that they can expect this product from you. Because at the end of the day, this is a product. It's a free product. It doesn't, people don't pay you for it, but it represents your company as much as your real B2B software as a service offering. So the goal was really to deliver this every 2 weeks. The goal was to make this high quality content. And I think there were three essential components to that. One, we already mentioned that this is something that I'm doing anyway. As part of my job as the CEO of this company, I need to stay up to date on the scientific literature. Whenever a paper comes out, I get an email alert and I check it out. So it is an ongoing activity. It is part of my day anyway. Now it was just a question of compiling it into a meaningful newsletter. Which brings us to the second part. And once again, I will mention Heather Dwyer, our amazing operations director, who also serves as the editor on the Immune Monitoring Biweekly. And to clarify, Heather's background is not biology, it's computer science as well, but she's an amazing editor. She's an amazing writer and editor. And to me, especially as someone who is not a native English speaker, it was really important to have that person reviewing everything I write, make corrections. You don't want a single grammar mistake in your email. And having an editor is critical for that. And finally, the last thing is that we have a checklist. And I would like to use this opportunity to mention Atul Gawanda's actually excellent book, The Checklist Manifesto. The process is we form up a draft of the newsletter. Heather edits it and sets it up in MailChimp. And then I go back and go over the checklist. And the checklist is super boring. It includes stuff like make sure that the from field and the to field are correct. And they always are, right? It's automated. And yet, go over the checklist, like one or two small things always slip through. So it's nice to have this protocol, this algorithm even, to go over what you've done. So just to summarize, I would say the three main things are: one, try to build this into an existing activity. Two, have an editor. It doesn't have to be a professional editor, just someone who knows how to write. And three, make sure to have quality control in the form of a checklist or any other tool that works for you.
Yeah, these are excellent tips for a company of any size. And I wanted to leave you with a few additional ideas for content beyond just curating industry content, which is excellent and is, wanted and desired now even more than ever. We have so much going on right now. A lot of it is confusing and unknown. People are craving someone authoritative, smart, well-informed to do content curation for them. So definitely a vote of confidence. Data journalism, so the notion of taking some proprietary unique data you may have from your product or users, packaging it, analyzing it, and providing research reports, trends, commentary, especially on things that are going on right now, highly desirable right now, both by your audience as well as press. So that can be an interesting angle for you to explore as well. We also love a segment of content that we like to call boring content. And you can see a few examples here. These are not like super original creative ideas. They're pretty straightforward, but they're sure hits. They always work. So interviews with successful leaders in the industry, or dissecting success stories in your industry, or compiling a list of recommended tools and technologies. This is thoughtful, relevant, informative, educational content that anyone can write. You don't need to be a professional content writer. And your audience, no matter the industry, they will appreciate this type of content. So head over to our blog to a bunch of additional boring content ideas.
And in this context, I know that the focus here is on the newsletter, on the biweekly, but I want to briefly mention two other activities that we've done. The first one is a couple of weeks ago, I interviewed Dr. Michal Tal, who is an expert virologist from Stanford on the COVID-19 virus. And the video is under the Astrolabe brand, but it doesn't mention the product or the company at all. And at this point, it has about 500 views, which in our niche field is amazing. I mean, getting 500 pair of eyes on the content that we generate is fantastic. And in this context, I think it's important to say that none of these things are one and done. Every piece of content that you generate, you can reuse it later. For example, we recorded this interview and we sliced it up into 1.5-minute segments that we're posting on social media. Or we've done a survey a few months ago about one of the common tools that people in our field use. Like, how do you use the tool? Why do you use it? Why don't you use it? And that survey, we published it. It was nice. We got some leads. But more importantly, I keep reusing it. Whenever that tool comes up in a public forum and social media, in a conversation with the customer, I can send them that survey. So all of these content marketing efforts are really the gifts that keep on giving. You can recycle them and reuse them for other campaigns and other efforts.
Yes, I mean, these are amazing tips. All right, so I want to leave you with an inspirational message. Look, these are really challenging times in general in the world, and for marketing specifically. We call this webinar going back to the fundamentals. So what does your audience need? Who is your audience? What kind of informative, educational, high quality content can you produce for this audience? You don't need to be professional writers. You don't need to have a huge team or huge marketing budget. Just try to provide value for your audience in a thoughtful way, and good things will happen, both in these crazy times, but also in the years to come and post-corona, once we get over this craziness. We're happy to take questions. Elad, any parting words of wisdom?
So one funny thing that I keep noticing, every slide that you show up, it occurs to me that Blue Seedling has a blog post about this. And I just want to say that the blog that you've been posting has been an amazing resource. And I think that the blog itself is in some ways a playbook. We've really been following some of the ideas that you outlined. And for the audience who's listening, at least for us, for Astrolabe, Blue Seedling has been a wonderful resource. Both the blog and, of course, the conversations with Neda. So I strongly recommend that if you need help or some ideas, reach out to them for their advice.
All right, thank you, Elad. And with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Lauren again for some questions from the audience that have been coming pretty fast and furious, but keep them coming, we have some time.
Well, thank you so much. That was such an interesting conversation. Yes, keep your questions coming. We'll start off with one question, and then we'll give you guys another minute to add yours to the chat. So Neda, is there a certain audience segment that you think content works best for? So MQLs, SQLs, current customers who want to renew. What's your take on the audience segment that content works best for?
So I would say really all of the above. One of our clients really saw the highest engagement, for example, with existing clients, their customers, and for them, it was great. This content is great for long-term nurturing, and in enterprise sales cycles, oftentimes you need to keep someone warm for a long period of time. So you meet them at a conference or webinar, and you're not going to sell immediately, but you want to keep, and maybe they're not ready to buy because they only buy once every 3 years. Keep them engaged with content. Send them content every 2 weeks. And when they're ready, you'll be top of mind and they'll engage with you. Elad, what do you think? What have you been seeing?
So the question, here's my take on the question. For us, at least, as Astrolabe, as a B2B, the person who makes the purchasing decision is usually pretty senior. And one of the cool things I've been seeing from the newsletter, from the biweekly, is senior people in our target organizations replying directly to the biweekly. And I'm just picking up a few emails now. Dear Elad, thank you very much for these manuscripts and the emails you sent me in the few days. And here's another one. Thank you, Elad. This is very useful. And here's a final one. Hi, Elad. Will you have a few minutes to chat tomorrow? Please let me know. And all of these are exactly the people who signed the check for us. And I think it was pretty powerful to be able to reach them through a content channel and have them respond to us. And one of them was like, let's talk and decide what's the good next step for the conversation.
Yeah, that's fabulous. We have another question here from Lee. Thank you, Lee. So Lee is asking about setting KPIs, and particularly with the conversation that you did a lot with the doctor from Stanford about coronavirus. Did you plan KPIs for that? How did you sort of work that into your content strategy?
That's a fantastic question. And for those of you who watch South Park, The Simpsons did it. So Blue Seedling did it. There's actually a great blog post from Neda about doing postmortems on marketing activities. And I think that at least right now, Astrolabe is a bit too small for defining KPIs. Our field is pretty niche, and we don't have the organizational knowledge base to set these KPIs. We can guess some numbers, but it's going to be really difficult to know if these numbers are even close to what we expect to see. However, what we have been doing diligently is postmortems. And after every marketing activity, usually we take somewhere between 2 and 4 weeks, depending on the specific activity. And then me and Heather sit down and have a 5 to 10 minute conversation about that activity. What did we learn? What did we gain out of it? Some of it is numbers. How many new leads did we see? How many of them became opportunities? How many of them closed? But the numbers for us are relatively small. Again, it's B2B, it's a niche market. So it's hard to give any broad statements about that. It's mostly anecdotal. On the other hand, there is a lot of qualitative knowledge that can be gained for these kinds of postmortems. For example, how much future content did we get out of this? Looking at the people who RSVP'd, how many of them are people that we want to reach on a regular basis? So I think that, at least for us, there is a bit of a quantitative KPI element to it, but a significant part of it is doing the postmortems and doing the learning from that. And just to give an example where something did not work out as well as we hoped, I mentioned the survey earlier, and the survey is a great content tool for us. However, it was pretty intensive to build. It took quite a while to draft the survey itself and then to disseminate it, and then to get the results and build up the survey PDF. There was a designer involved that helped us make everything look pretty, so there was some money spent as well. And overall, we weren't super happy with the performance of the survey and decided that it's not an activity that we should do again. And the reason we reached that conclusion is through a postmortem. So I would say that's the tool that works for us.
Yeah, and I would just add regarding KPIs, just be careful not to over KPI yourself. It's so easy in marketing to measure anything and everything. Ultimately, as a marketing leader, you want to measure something close to revenue and the top line company goals. I like to be held accountable to sales opportunities. So in total, all of your marketing efforts should drive the necessary amount of sales opportunities. Don't worry too much about attribution. Oh my God, I said the A word. Don't worry too much about like vanity metrics, like I don't know how many people shared something on Facebook. Content marketing is a long-term effort. It takes a while to come into fruition and you need to keep investing. So I would say, you know, compare yourself to industry benchmarks like open rate, unsubscribe rate for email campaigns, for example, but don't optimize for them. ultimately you need to drive the necessary number of sales opportunities for the business. No, but the CEO doesn't care about your email open rates. I can tell you that.
And speaking of future webinars, one of the things I learned about marketing is that marketing is really a multi-touch point business. You cannot, I mean, just don't hope that any one initiative is going to get you a lead. It's really about hitting them from many different directions and in some way flooding their environment with your brand and with the kind of capabilities that you offer. And we had numerous conversations where I asked someone, how did you reach us? And they say, oh, I saw you on social media. But then as the conversation progresses, I see that they saw us on social media and one of their colleagues mentioned us and they attended a conference and someone mentioned Estrelab and they saw us in a webinar that was for a completely different company. So I wouldn't trust on any one thing or any one KPI. And as Neta mentioned, attribution is tricky. It's really about having a lot of different touch points and hoping that enough is going to hit your target audience.
Great. That's a really thorough answer. Thanks. Let's see if we go back to some of the other questions. Feel free to keep typing questions, everyone. If we sort of take a big picture, there's a question about how we define content marketing generally, and in terms of paying versus not paying, key differences between content marketing and online advertising. Netta, maybe this is an excuse to talk about why you don't like online advertising too, if you want to get into that.
Yeah, so it's a great question, and I actually define content in a very broad sense. To me, this webinar is content marketing. Running an event when at some point we'll be able to do events again, that's content as well. Social media is content. Anything you put in front of your audience is content. Why I don't like paid online advertising for early stage B2B enterprise startups? Well, I'll just leave it as a teaser and we'll send all of you the relevant blog post. It's a bit of a long answer, but I would say this entire webinar was to show you that you can get great results from content marketing with organic efforts without paying on content promotion.
And by the way, we've done both. We had instances where we took our content-based marketing and advertised them through online tools. I think that if you are using stuff like LinkedIn and you're paying money for that, I would be more blunt. Our content-based efforts work the best through organic channels, through our mailing list, through forums, through organic social media posts. They weren't as successful as paid campaigns. If you're doing a paid campaign, I would feel more comfortable hammering your target audience with your message. If you're going through organic channels, I would be more subtle and I will focus on the benefit they're gaining from you. So I think that content and online advertising are separate and you can mix and match them, but again, I would keep content marketing for your organic channels.
Yeah, all right, yeah, that sounds good. Great, all right, well, I think we're gonna wrap up. Does that sound good, Netta and Elad?
Yeah, we're gonna give everyone 10 minutes back of their lives.
Great. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us today. We're going to be following up shortly with more info. We'll also be distributing a super short survey, just your opinions and your feedback on how today went. We'd really appreciate you filling that out. So look out for that in your email inbox shortly. And yes, thank you so much again and enjoy the rest of your week and keep in touch.
Thanks everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.